Hey everyone, let's take a look at chapter 4.2 from statistics and percentages. And just a quick recap. From the prior knowledge, we know this percentage-based calculation, right? How to calculate 58% of 160, make this a decimal number, and then multiply it with the decimal number. Multiply it with the given amount, which gives me amounts again. And we also know how to calculate the percentage of a percentage. How much percent is 125 of 350? Do part divided by total times 100%, round to one decimal place, and do not forget the percentage sign. Okay, we're going to take a look at some other calculations with percentages. And the first one we already discussed previous year, but you guys might now know this one better from actual economics. How to calculate percentage change. Percentage change can be calculated by doing new minus old over old times 100%. And my experience is you guys practice with this already quite heavily at economics, so you should be able to do this at mathematics as well. Do now we can also ask these questions a bit differently. Instead of saying calculate the percentage change, we can also ask you to calculate the relative change. Relative is always percentage. Absolute is always an amount. So if I, for example, want to calculate the absolute amount from here, from old to new, I will do just new minus old, and I see that there is an increase of 80 cents. That's absolute. Absolute increase, and this is what we call relative increase or relative change. This works when new is bigger than old, then you have an increase, but also when old is bigger than new, which means you have a decrease. What you then get is a negative number here. And I do want you to then write after that, in your final answer, leave out the negative symbol and write it as so I have a percentage decrease in 24, is 24.6%. Okay? Always try to figure out what new and old is. I think this is quite doable because this is all time based. So just take a look at what is the newest thing, the newest date. Yeah, that's going to be new. You got the result. That brings me to another thing. We don't always have things with compared to time. So instead, we have something like this. There are fewer VWO graduates in 2016 than Vwo graduates. What percentage fewer? That's something like this, right? Yeah, I cannot use new minus old divided by old here. Because, yeah, what's new, what's old? So instead of using that, I can use a slightly different formula. I will show you the actual formula in a second. What they say is we want to know the number of VWO graduates compared to the number of Vwo graduates. So you can calculate that. You do VWO graduates minus Vwo graduates over Vwo graduates. And you're comparing to Vwo, so that's why you divide by Vwo. And this you can calculate, and hopefully you see some kind of resemblance here in new minus old over old. Now it's VWO minus Vwo over Vwo times 100%. Here you find minus 32%, so 32%. And now you say fewer, right? It's not a decrease here because we're comparing, it's not over time. You say that now 32% fewer VWO graduates than Vwo graduates, which is logical because VWO is smaller than Vwo. That brings us to the standard formula, and it looks like this. And you say, hey, what's the difference here? A and B can be any numbers, right? Yeah, but depending on what you're comparing to, the numbers are in different places. So if you say what percentage more or fewer, depends, is A compared to B or A than B, it's oftentimes also what they say here, VWO graduates than Vwo graduates. If I'm comparing to B, that's what you can say is old. So we have A minus B over B times 100%. If the question is asked differently, so now it's B compared to A, then A is going to be, you could say, old. So you have B minus A over A. So it's very important, that's why this mark is here, to read carefully. Because if you do it the other way around, you're going to answer the question differently. Okay, so the thing you're comparing to is in the denominator, and the top here, what you could say is old, is also going to be B. So be careful. Oftentimes see people filling in the wrong denominator here. Let's do an example. What was the percentage increase in Harvard graduates between 2011 and 2016? And again, if you're doing something like this on the test or when you're doing your homework, I think it might be nice to actually mark what you're doing. So I'm going to change to, well, let's change to a marker. Why not? Let's mark it in orange. If we want to take a look at the Harvard graduates, it's Harvard total. That's this one. And we're going to take a look at the same thing, but now in 2016. Now we see this is the only thing that we have to use. Hey, this is over time, so I can just use new minus old over old, right? You're going to use this formula. New minus old over old times 100%. Round percentage-based calculations always to one decimal place. Unless otherwise stated, but that won't happen that often. Okay, so this is the economics, new minus old over old. In 2016, there were fewer VWO science graduates than HAVO science. Hey, this is something compared to something. In 2016, VWO science compared to HAVO science. Oh, I'm using the wrong button here. I'm sorry. If we have this, the then indicates that HAVO science is the B, right? So it would be VWO minus HAVO over HAVO. So we get 18,718, this one, minus 20,379 over 20,379 times 100%. It's negative here, so 7.8% fewer. Okay, use this formula here. But remember, on the test and also in the homework exercises, you can also just get questions that are not about those two formulas. In 2011, 53.9% of the VWO graduates were female. 2011, VWO graduates total. So we're going to take a look at this thing. Yeah, this is just calculating 53.9% of 32,641. So if you're going to do that, convert this to a decimal number, divide it by 100, and you get 0.539 times the amount. It gives you a new amount. Round to whole numbers here because you can only have whole students, I guess. And at D, what percentage of VWO graduates did science in 2016? VWO graduates in 2016, then we need the total and we need the part that did science. So this one and that one. And this is part over total. I'm going to calculate how much percent this is of this. This is the part, this is the total. So you get part, it's this part, over total times 100%. Again, percentage-based calculations, so round to one decimal place. Alright. One quick thing. This is not really in the theories, but in exercise 19, they're going to try and confuse you by doing an exercise with percentage-based calculations. First, do an example. In 2017, CDA got 12.4% of the votes, SP got 9.1%. If you want to see how much more votes CDA has compared to SP, you can do A minus B over B, this over, minus this over this. Yeah. This is just a practice. It's more about this part from here on out. In 2017, VVD got 21.2% of the votes. In 2012, this was 26.6%. So that's a decrease over time, right, from 2012 to 2017. Mark says this is a percentage decrease of 5.4%. I guess that's Mark Rutte from the VVD. Geert, I guess Geert Wilders disagrees. He says the percentage decrease is 20.3%. Say heard 20.3, it goes from here to here, right? So the question is who is right, and I think most people will say this is correct. But that's incorrect actually, because if I'm going to take a look, this is over time, right? So we have this in 2017 and we have this in 2012. So percentage-based calculation states new minus old divided by old times 100% is minus 20.3%. That indicates a decrease, so it's actually here that is correct this time around. But what's that 5.4 then? 5.4% decrease is what you get if you subtract two percentages, and then you also get an answer in percentage. And to get rid of this confusion of when we need what, this just subtracting percentages is what we call percentage points from now on. It's only going to be used in this exercise, but it's also good to know this just for daily life. Percentage points is if you just subtract percentages. So yeah, the percentage point decreased with 5.4%, but the percentual decrease, the percentage decrease is new minus old over old times 100%, and that's 20.3. In Dutch is het called procentpunten. Komt nog wel eens naar voren toe als je de verkiezingsuitslagen gaat kijken. So know that difference. Okay? That's the end of this video. Good luck, and I will see you around for the next video.